The first time I heard the insult, I thought I misheard it. I stepped into the ballroom and caught a woman in a satin dress leaning toward her friends, champagne flute tilted like a weapon. "Oh, perfect," she whispered, loud enough to travel over the string quartet. "The barn-scented sister is here." Her bridesmaids snickered behind their manicured hands, all perfume and pearl earrings. The woman, my brother's fiancée, didn't even turn her head. She didn't have to. In her mind, I was background noise, a smudge on the picture-perfect engagement party. I stood there a second too long, my cheeks heating up. Not because she was clever, she wasn't. Because I'd heard some version of that line my whole life. What she didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that the crystal chandeliers above her head, the Italian marble under her heels, even the polished brass nameplate by the front doors, all of it belonged to me. I'd signed the papers on this hotel 3 years ago. And the funny thing about owning the ground people stand on is you can let them stomp around feeling powerful, right up until you decide you're done. My name isn't Bethany Burns in this version of my life. It's Hannah Price. I'm 33. And I grew up in a town outside Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where the biggest excitement was a high school football game in the Walmart parking lot on a Friday night. My brother, Evan, is 3 years older. Everybody's favorite. The kind of guy teachers called a natural leader, and my mother called my rock. Growing up, I was always compared to him like a store-brand product next to the name brand. If Evan got a trophy, I got a pat on the head. If Evan brought home a B, the whole house celebrated. If I brought home straight A's, my mom asked why I wasn't more outgoing, so I left the second I could. At 18, I shoved 2 duffel bags into the trunk of a used Honda Civic, filled the tank with my last $40, and drove east until I hit Pittsburgh. I rented a room over a garage, ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches, and worked whatever job would take me. Dishwashing, folding towels, cleaning bathrooms. The kind of work people pretend they don't see. That's how I learned something most folks never do. If you stay quiet, you hear everything. I started in housekeeping at a small downtown hotel, the kind with a lobby that smelled like lemon polish and old money. I watched how managers spoke, how guests treated staff, who tipped and who didn't. I learned how to read people before they opened their mouths, and I climbed. Front desk, night supervisor, operations. Then I took a risk. Saved, invested, partnered with the right people. By my early 30s, I'd built a hospitality company that owned multiple boutique properties up and down the East Coast. This hotel, the Monarch House, was my flagship, which is why, when my brother invited me to his engagement party here at the last minute, something felt off. Like a door I'd closed years ago had been cracked open on purpose. And then I saw the necklace around his fiancé's throat, my grandmother's necklace. The one that was supposed to be mine. That's when the night stopped being awkward and started becoming dangerous. Seeing that necklace tightened something deep in my chest. It wasn't flashy. Just a simple antique pendant, dull gold with a faint scratch on the back from where my grandmother used to fidget with it during church. She'd promised it to me when I was 16, squeezed my hand and said, "You're the one who keeps going, Hannah. Don't forget that." My mother had been standing right there when she said it. And now it was hanging on a stranger's neck like a costume accessory. I drifted toward the bar, ordered a bourbon neat, Maker's Mark, nothing fancy, and tried to slow my breathing. Around me, the party buzzed with polite laughter and expensive perfume. People talked about interest rates, vacation homes in Florida, college tuition like it was pocket change. That's when I heard my brother's future father-in-law arguing quietly near the hallway. He didn't see me. Most people never do when they think you don't matter. "We just need this wedding to happen," he hissed into his phone. "The Price family has money, enough to cover this. After that, we're clear." I froze. The Price family? I almost laughed out loud. My parents still lived in the same split-level house with a 30-year-old roof and a second mortgage I'd been secretly paying for. My brother worked middle management at a logistics company. There was no family fortune, no trust fund, no safety net. So why did this man think there was? I glanced back into the ballroom. My mother was smiling too wide, bragging to strangers. My brother looked nervous, like someone who knew something was wrong but didn't want to name it. And his fiancée, still wearing my grandmother's necklace, kept scanning the room like a gambler watching the table. That's when it hit me. For years, I'd been sending money home anonymously. Mortgage payments, medical bills, property taxes, always through my company, never my name. My parents didn't know it was me, which meant someone else was getting credit. And somewhere along the line, that misunderstanding had turned into bait. I took a slow sip of bourbon. This wasn't just a bad engagement party. It was a setup. Once the thought settled in my mind, I couldn't unsee it. Every smile in that room suddenly looked rehearsed. Every handshake felt like a transaction. The chandeliers still sparkled, the jazz trio still played, but the party had shifted for me. It was like watching a movie after someone spoiled the ending. You start noticing all the clues you missed before. I moved slowly along the edge of the ballroom, pretending to admire the floral arrangements. White roses, imported from California, flown in that morning. I knew because I'd approved the invoice. $800 a centerpiece. Excessive, but not my money tonight. Or at least that's what everyone thought. My mother spotted me and waved me over with that tight smile she used in public. The one that said, "Behave yourself." She looked me up and down, paused at my boots, and sighed. "You couldn't have worn something nicer?" she whispered. "Evan's future in-laws are particular." Particular? That was her word for people she wanted to impress. I told her I'd come straight from work, which was true. I just didn't explain that work meant reviewing expansion numbers and approving payroll for over 200 employees. She nodded like she always did when I spoke, half listening, half dismissing, then drifted away to greet someone more important. I stood there, feeling 12 years old again, when Evan got the bigger slice of cake and nobody noticed. Across the room, Evan finally saw me. He smiled, genuine but distracted, and walked over. "I'm glad you made it," he said. "Isn't this place amazing?" I nodded. "It's nice." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Mom gave Sloan Grandma's necklace as an engagement gift. Pretty generous, right?" The word generous landed like a slap. I felt something drain out of me. Not anger, exactly. More like a cold clarity. The kind you get when you realize you've been wrong about people for a very long time. Before I could respond, Evan was pulled away by someone congratulating him. I watched him go, my reflection faint in the mirrored wall behind the bar. That's when I passed Richard Lowell, the man I'd heard on the phone earlier. Not Franklin Whitmore this time. I knew better now. Names were flexible things to people like him. He was pacing near the hallway, jacket unbuttoned, phone glued to his ear again. "They're solid," he whispered. "House, no visible debt, steady income. The mother won't stop talking about her son's investments." I almost smiled. He didn't know the investments were mine. Or that the steady income wasn't Evan's. Or that the mortgage he thought was paid off was still very much alive. Just quietly handled. I stepped into the restroom and locked myself in a stall, pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. The first was to Laura Chen, my attorney. She answered on the second ring. I gave her a tight summary. Names, suspicions, what I'd overheard. She didn't interrupt. The second call was to Mark Alvarez, a forensic accountant who'd helped me untangle a messy acquisition in New Jersey years ago. I trusted him because he liked puzzles and hated liars. I texted him photos of the guest list, the father-in-law's business name, the fiancé's maiden name, or at least the one she was using tonight. "Give me whatever you can," I wrote. Fast. I slipped the phone back into my purse, washed my hands, and stared at myself in the mirror. No makeup touch-up. No deep breaths. I already knew how this ended. I just didn't know how loud it would get. Back in the ballroom, the party rolled on. A champagne tower was refilled. Laughter spiked. Someone clinked a glass for attention, but it wasn't time yet. The fiancé, Sloan, she called herself, finally approached me. Up close, she was flawless in the way magazine covers are flawless. Hair sculpted, smile precise, eyes sharp. "Hannah, right?" she said, like she was confirming a trivia answer. "We should talk." She took my arm, steering me toward a quieter corner near the coat check. The second we were out of earshot, her expression flattened. "I know you send money home," she said casually. "Every month." I raised an eyebrow. She went on. "I just don't understand why someone who rents would do that. Trying to buy affection? Or prove something?" Her voice was calm, practiced. She told me Evan had explained everything. How I'd always been jealous. How I couldn't stand being second best. How the family felt sorry for me. Then she smiled, a thin, cruel thing. You don't really belong here, she said. And once I'm married into this family, I'd prefer you didn't complicate things. She patted my arm like you'd pat a child and walked away. I stood there, oddly calm, because now I was certain. She thought I was poor. Mark called back 20 minutes later. You were right, he said. Not just debt, fraud, real estate shell companies, Arizona, Nevada, different names, same pattern. He paused. And Hannah? The bride's name isn't Sloan. I leaned against the wall, the cool marble grounding me. It's Rachel Miller, or it was 3 years ago. Before that, Amanda Scott. Same face, same parents, same scam. By the time I hung up, my hands were shaking. This wasn't a bad marriage. This was an escape plan. And my brother was the lifeboat. I found Tom, my hotel's operations director, near the service corridor. He took one look at my face and followed me without questions. I need the screens, I said, during the toast. He nodded once. What are we showing? I handed him my phone. Court filings, articles, side-by-side photos Mark had sent, wire transfers, shell companies. Tom whistled softly. Timing. Perfect, I said. At 8:58 p.m., Evan's future father-in-law stepped onto the small stage. He adjusted the microphone, smiling wide, confident. He began talking about family, about trust, about new beginnings. Behind him, the screens flickered. The first document appeared, then another. Headlines, photos. The room went silent. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else gasped. The man on stage stuttered, tried to joke, tried to regain control. But the story was already running without him. Then I walked forward. Tom's voice came over the speakers, steady and professional. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce the owner of the Monarch House? Every head turned. My mother's face drained of color. Evan looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. I took the microphone. My name is Hannah Price, I said, and I believe you deserve to know who you're celebrating tonight. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Truth carries. When the agents walked in 10 minutes later, badges visible, it felt surreal. The music had stopped. The champagne flute sat abandoned. Rachel, Sloan, whoever she was tonight, screamed that I'd ruined everything. I leaned close and whispered, You ruined it the moment you thought I was small. Security led them out. The party never really recovered, but my family did, or at least it started to. 3 weeks later, the lobby of the Monarch House felt calm again. No reporters, no flashing lights, just the soft hum of conversation, the smell of fresh coffee, and guests rolling suitcases across floors they never thought about. That's how I like it. Power works best when it doesn't announce itself. The people who scammed their way into my family's life were gone. Federal charges, multiple states, no more aliases to hide behind. The wedding never happened. The money trail led exactly where it should. My brother came by one afternoon, quiet, humbled. He didn't try to explain himself. He just said he was sorry, and this time he meant it. We're not suddenly perfect, but we're honest now. That's a start. My mother finally asked me a question she'd never asked before. How did you do it? Not why. Not why didn't you tell us? Just how. I told her the truth. Slowly. Honestly. Without anger. That necklace? It hangs in my office now. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder of who believed in me before anyone else did. Here's the lesson I learned the hard way. People will judge you by where you came from, what you wear, how loud you are. Let them. While they're busy looking down on you, they won't see you building something solid underneath their feet. And when the ground shifts, you won't need to shout. You'll already be standing.